The following is a list of Moors who have been kidnapped and are being held for a demand of income. The demand of income is being made against the family as well as through fraudulent submissions of documents alleging that they are caring for the people in some sort of long-term care fashion. These Moors have been kidnapped literally off the street by employees of various corporations that are guised as counties, cities, towns, township, boroughs. These names that we have all been mentally conditioned to believe are government are not. They are exactly what they say they are. They are municipal corporations, and as such, if you do the research, you will find that they are foreign corporations on American soil. Therefore, they do not have standing nor jurisdiction to make a demand of income or even bring a claim against the Aboriginal indigenous people or any people on American soil, this making their actions criminal. However, as Moors, we must bring these crimes to the forefront via civil complaints against these unalienable constitutional treaty-secured rights of the people, Aboriginal indigenous Moors of this land. If the municipal corporation has been provided, then we reference that along with the union state. If we don't have the municipal corporation where the employee works that actually did the kidnapping, then we just reference the union state that is bound and obligated to protect the people from foreign and domestic invasion. This list comprises Moors who have been kidnapped and are being held hostage by employees of various corporations on American soil, which is a violation of the American Constitution 1791, and it is a treaty violation, being that we are talking about Moorish Americans, Aboriginal indigenous to this land, who have been kidnapped by employees of foreign corporation on American soil. This making this an international issue because you have two nations with one nation warring against another. Therefore, this is an international issue. If you have a family member near or far within your immediate family or one of the family that you know and you would like them added to this list, please send an email to MHHSeyeswideopen@gmail.com. In the subject line, put Kidnap Moor, and please provide us with their free national appellation, the municipal corporation that the employee is operating through that kidnapped them, along with the union state that this corporation is in purview to. We start off with our sister, RVBey, kidnapped through a joint venture between Mantis and Shelby Corporation under the purview of Tennessee, Dawood Ill under the purview of Arkansas, Amir Muslimin Ill, Kusu Ra Kush Bey under the purview of Missouri, Asar Patah Amen Ra Bey under the purview of Ohio, Jeremy Paler Ill, Terry Thorne Bay, J. McCall Brooks Bay, Joseph Kanaday Ill, Kush Amir Bunch Ill, Emmanuel Billings Bay, Yassin Khalik Alamin Ill, Michael Curry Bay, all under the purview of North Carolina, Noble Crisco Ill under the purview of New Jersey, Messiah Aziz Ill and Crystal Ill, both kidnapped through a joint venture between Mercer, Freehold, and Trenton Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. Still waiting on an update regarding baby Patricia, or the baby of Patricia Bey, kidnapped by the Atlantic Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. Eldridge Terra Fisher Ill and Marti Sivion Ill under the purview of Indiana, Solomon Ill Bey and Mumi Abu Bey under the purview of Texas, William Barrett Ill under the purview of Virginia, Che Ray Bey under the purview of West Virginia, Thomas Lee Bey under the purview of California, Victor Eduardo Avalle Juarez Ill, kidnapped by Harlem Corporation under the purview of Georgia, Natural Tohudi Ill, kidnapped by Benner Corporation under the purview of Pennsylvania, Brian George Mills Bey, kidnapped by Blades Corporation under the purview of Florida, Judah Ill and Anwar Ill, kidnapped by Philadelphia Corporation under the purview of Pennsylvania, Ramor Ill, Amada Ill, both kidnapped by Chester Corporation under the purview of Pennsylvania, Iman Ill, kidnapped by Lynchburg Corporation under the purview of Virginia, and Khalid Albert Ill, kidnapped by Las Vegas Corporation under the purview of Nevada. Thank you very much.
All right. Islam, and welcome to MHHS Eyes Wide Open. This is your host, Anita L., along with my co-host, Dr. Mariah Day.
Islam, peace and love to all.
Islam. We will not have Mizraim Alafil tonight. He will be returning next Tuesday, and I think we might have Cujo joining us later.
Yeah, I've got it. The
trying to get something taken care of with the computer. So, for right now, it's just myself.
You and I. Well, you know what? Both of the Cujo will I trust to be on later. This, as you said, won't. But they're going to be doing the Sons of Allah this Thursday. Not
Absolutely.
Tomorrow.
First and foremost, there's this Thursday, 9 p.m., same time, same channel. You'll have Sons of Allah. And let's see, before we start, we shout out to family listening around the world. There are various corporations. Peace and love to you all. And thank you so much for joining in and commenting. I'm not sure. Do we want to make mention about the chat room, or do we want to say that?
Say that again? Do I want to say what?
Do we want to make mention about the chat room? Or
I
do you want to say that for later?
About the what?
Can you not hear me?
It might be my earpiece. About the what?
The chat room.
You may as well, because they haven't had the chat room since you've been gone. Welcome back. I mean, I've already welcomed you and the Sisters Standing on Love, warm love and light, but I guess everyone on this line, I'm sure, has been giving you love and light also and welcomes you back. So, but
and I do
how
want
that came
to thank
about.
everyone. I want to thank everyone for all the positive energy, the support, the love, let's see, this is where I speak the word understanding. Thank you so much for comprehending, the delay with proclamation and name correction. If you didn't know, my mom got sick and subsequently passed away, and there was a lot of things going on for almost a month, or 3 weeks as it relates those arrangements. That has me really tied up. And before that was her health. So as a result, I got extremely behind. And so I'm thankful that, those who are waiting for their proclamation, thank you so much for, understanding. And I am working on getting those things processed out, and we'll have them to you as soon as possible. So I just want to let everyone know, thank you for everything regarding that, all the positive energy, all the love, and the support. But one of the things that we wanted to try to make mention of, that real irate comment made while I was out, the chat room might have malfunctioned. And we had a real irate listener who was like really, really, really soft that they were not able to chat in the chat room. And they had some things that they wanted to say regarding the subject matter, whether it was correct or comment. I don't really know.
No, they weren't kind at all.
It wasn't a very nice message. But I can say from what we have been observing is that it seems that people get into the chat room and they have conversations that have nothing to do with the subject of class, on a whole, issues of nationality, principles, or law, or anything like that. And there have been times when I have observed some of the transcripts going across, and it seemed that people were sometimes intentionally going into the chat room just to distract people who were in the chat room. I want to thank those Moors who have been in the chat room, who, when we say a word and we make mention that, we want to look it up and see what that means, they have been diligent in going and looking up that information and posting it in the chat room, and that was very helpful. But it seems as though the chat room has become more of a gossip line than an information line. And so tonight will be the last night we will open the chat room. And if there are those who would like to comment on what is being discussed, you can call in to the guest number. And if you can't get through, you can always bring it up on the next broadcast, because we don't just stick to the subject of the broadcast, but we do keep it in line with national principles, nationality, and law. That was what we decided we would do, because this is serious business. This is very serious. The chat room is supposed to be supportive of the discussion that's going on, not a means of taking away from the discussion that is going on. And it's not anybody's personal place to launch a vendetta. That's not what that is supposed to be for. So,
well, I will say this. I will say this. That person, they actually made it very clear that they were upset because they couldn't say what they wanted to say, and if we think we could just say anything we want to say, this kind of stuff. They were saying that I want to be able to come in to the chat room, and I don't have to, quote unquote, believe what you're saying or whatever. And they said a lot of, it made it very, very clear, and they they blaspheme us and everything just because we wouldn't let them. We didn't have the chat room open for them, and that's when it brought to our attention. Wait a minute. Obviously, if they're coming in to do that, they're not interested in anything that may be that. Right. So they were like, time is at hand. A lot of the social medias, in my personal opinion, becoming almost like cesspools, and we're not going to let that happen here. Forget it. Don't even have the chat room. Although, you are saying thank you to those who have been holding it down in the chat room with proper concepts for those who do not have them. But that was crazy, man. It was a very negative message. But what it brought home was that there are people who come into the MHHS chat room with the sole intent to distract whoever might be there listening. That's their intent. Because her issue was not necessarily wanting to discuss the topic of the class, but whatever her personal vendetta was, she wanted to put it room. And I can tell you that there have been people who seem to come to our chat room. They're not participating in the class at all. They come there and they distract people. I have seen the transcript, and their conversations has nothing to do with principles of nationality. They're literally they literally sound like infiltrators, and their sole intent is to just lead people away from the discussion that is going on. So, we want people to pay attention and participate. So if you do want to comment on what is being discussed, then just call the guest line and put your question or comment on the table. We'll be so happy to answer it. But if that's not your interest or intent, then we're not opening up a venue for you to distract the people. We got enough of that going on already. So with that, let's move into our topic of tonight's broadcast. And the topic of tonight's broadcast is sometimes a little bit of information can be dangerous, especially when it lacks study. If you're going to approach anyone with your perception of various processes, i.e. the trust, the UCC, which means Universal Commercial Code, or this presumption of commerce, yet there's no merchandise involved, then you better have your facts straight with verifiable documentation, or you will be a pawn taken off the chessboard, foreigner, waiting like a dragon to devour you. That's what's going on right now. There's a lot of people who have various different processes that they think is going to save them, and as a result, they're pawns. They haven't, through study, elevated to a bishop, a rook, or a horseman, and they're being taken off the chessboard before they can even graduate to a higher degree. Now, the reason they're being taken off the chessboard is no other reason but lack of study. Now, some people might think they're studying, but I have watched and spoken to a significant body of people. Many of our people do not know how to study. They think they're studying, but they're not. Then the other part of that is, if you are studying, you might have a challenge with comprehension.
one or the other or both or a combination of both going on. People are chasing down things that they have absolutely no knowledge on. This is exactly why Moses Darwin said. Let me tell you what I have learned. And I've learned so much. I have been so much unveiled. All you people who are chasing down these processes, whether you want to call it trust, you don't know nothing about the truth. You're just listening to somebody at a lecture or a video and they're telling you you don't even know why. You don't even have the principles of it. You're not even going on any ancient principles. You're going on some today, principles, today process that my Europeans would take. Back in 2008, when I came to my Europeans were talking about trust. They were talking about birthright, birth certificate redemption. They were talking about UCC. They were talking about the commercial process. And I can tell you, I went and studied all of that stuff. Got extensive manual books, ancient writing on many of these subjects. And so I have the information Moors are doing today. They're so far removed from what you think a trust is. Modern Europeans are laughing at us all the way to the bank. It's so far removed from what Uniform Commercial Code and commerce is that the nations of the world are laughing at it. Because you cannot get into commerce of any sort without merchandise. Anybody who thinks that the birth certificate is merchandise, or as a result, you're the merchandise, take either concept to Japan and see what you can buy with what you think is a bond. You don't even know what a bond is. You only know what somebody told you in a video or at a lecture about it. Because if you really knew what a bond is, there's no way in the world that you would think that a piece of paper is sexy, but you have to know a little bit about world trade. You would also need to know a little bit about brokers and brokering transactions. You would absolutely need to know a little bit about accounting. And accounting, back when I was going to school, was called business law. And in business law, they taught you about Uniform Commercial Code. Because Uniform Commercial Code, it is talking about business, but the business has merchandise. The travesty of today is that many of these corporations, they don't have no merchandise. Back in the 1500s and the 1600s, the merchandise was beaver fur, timber, fish, spices. Who's doing that stuff today? It's not happening. The corporations that were initially established to trade in that segment, in that capacity, has turned into huge monsters. Tobacco was another cash crop. That was merchandise. These things can no longer support the monster corporations of today. So the only way that corporations today generate any form of credit, because there is no money, is through federal funding. There's not one corporation today that literally has a profit. They all survive based on federal funding. If you do the research, you will find the federal program that is funding these corporations. I know because I worked for a major corporation at one point. And the finance, their credit came from the fact that they were an employee of the Fed. So all of these things that these documents, this I-9, this E-Verify, the Social Security number, all of that stuff, that's supposed to be imposed on those corporations who are contracted by federal government to administer a program. They have zero control over the people. You will never get that. And like the prophet said, if you don't study, you will be the pawn of anyone and everyone. Anyone and everyone. So this is why it is absolutely imperative for you to study. This is why Prophet Nationality said, if you do not study, study, study. Study, study. He said it 3 times. 3 times. Why would he say one word 3 times? It's the only word that I have ever heard Prophet Nationality say and repeat 3 times because it's very important. It's a key. If you don't study, you will be susceptible to all of these savior processes out there. And let me tell you what's going to happen. Number one, if you don't have a firm foundation in the law, that's the American Constitution, that's the supreme law of this land. If you don't have a firm foundation in the law, forget about anything else. You're not going to be able to you're not going to be able to have a conversation or decipher any of the information you might receive, whether it's regarding a trust, uniform commercial code, or what people perceive commerce to be. People are running down this word commerce. Oh, I didn't authorize you to get into engage in any commerce. You know, that type of a conversation, to me, no, you didn't study. Guess who else is going to know? Foreigners. That's why the prisons are full of Moors. Because they didn't take the necessary time and energy to study. If you can't write a writ, you shouldn't be doing nothing. Because any claim that's presented to you, you're going to have to rebut writing. Creating a paper trail is what is going to protect you. Talk does nothing but let these foreigners know you don't know how to play this game, so we're going to make change with your behind. Unfortunately, for them, it's a game. For you, it's life or death. So you better study. If you think, setting up what you think and perceive a trust to be is going to save you, forget about it. If you think utilizing various uniform commercial codes is going to save you, forget about that. Most of you don't even know what 1-103 and 1-208 mean. I know you don't, because they removed those. You can only find 1-308. You can find those others. But you haven't even read it. And even if you did read it, do you comprehend what it means? And do you understand why you would use just that? There's a whole host of other codes that, you can investigate. And some people do use other codes out of context because you ain't got no merchandise, so it doesn't apply to you. You're not engaging in any commerce. People got this conception that if you have a birth certificate, a social security number, and a driver's license, you're engaged in commerce. If you're using the Federal Reserve note, you're engaging in commerce. No, you're not. The Federal Reserve note, if you do the research, is nothing more than an IOU. It is not money. It is an IOU. In order for you to know that, you have to go to 1792 and read the Coinage Act. If you alter the currency, the monetary system of this country, it is treason. But who would that treason apply to? Certainly not the people. The people can do any damn thing they want to. As long as you don't infringe on somebody else's faith, you can do any damn desire. No one can tell you any different. This Constitution was written to keep all corporations in check. You are not a corporation. I don't care what paper somebody created. That piece of paper, if it does not stand the law of contract, it is not a contract. One reason it is not a contract, there's many, but one major reason is most of those papers, they don't tell you what their true intent is. Now, lawfully, as Moors, you're supposed to know, because you're supposed to take these papers and you're supposed to research everything in there to see if it applies to you. Apply to you, you're supposed to bring them back their stuff and let them know, hey, this doesn't apply to me. There is no trust. There is no uniform commercial code. There is no commerce. There's no writ. There's no nothing. There's no card. There's nothing that is going to prevent you from having to answer when somebody makes a claim. If somebody makes a claim, you must answer. And your answer cannot be, oh, you don't have jurisdiction. Oh, I'm a Moorish American national. That cannot be your answer, because guess what? That's not a rebuttal. That's like saying, are you American? Are you a Moorish American national? And your response is, well, yeah. No, I can eat. I'm hungry. Let's go eat. Has nothing to do with the question or the claim that was made. Nothing whatsoever to do with it. When I first got into this information, a lot of people was like, oh, you don't want to talk subject because once you get into subject, then, they got jurisdiction. And you know what? That made a lot of sense. Started looking at the claims that people were making. People make claims all the time. And guess what? They can. And guess what else? 9 times out of 10, they don't have any right to make that claim, which is what jurisdiction means. So the best way to handle that situation is to not just tell them, hey, you don't have jurisdiction. Sometimes a good question would be, can you show me the verifiable documentation that states you can do or say this to me? Produce it. That's a good question. Simple, right to the point. It's really saying, show me how you have jurisdiction without saying or using the word jurisdiction. learn to think. Because these non-Europeans, they're very familiar with the Moor. They know all about the ancient Moor. Our foremothers, our forefathers. They know them is some more right there. Yeah. These people today that's running around talking about their Moors, they don't know about them. Guess what? Neither do I. Because when you sign that name correction or proclamation, you're saying, I am pledging my allegiance back to my ancient foremothers and forefathers. That would be your lineal line. And if you go, after doing that, if you go and your actions demonstrate no allegiance, you're a pawn. Getting ready to be taken off the chessboard. You're a pawn, because I'm telling you, more, y'all better listen closely when I say this to you. These foreigners know more about your ancestor and heritage than you do. Why? They can test you the way they do, and it's not even an advanced test. It's a real simple, basic test, and you fail every time. Because they know more about your ancestors and heritage than you do. And you're definitely not even honoring your ancestors, even though you have signed that proclamation and name correction and pledged allegiance to your lineal descent, bloodline. You negate it with your actions. Every time, foreigners will sit there like dragons and wait for you to do just that. That's why the prisons are full of Moors. Because you ain't studied. So you get gobbled up by the dragon.
It's coming.
See, that's it. Sayonara. Peace. No more. Gone. And if they snatch you up, it's like you just went to the black hole. We're never going to see or hear from you. And if we do, it's going to be because they will wholly leave your family dry because of your lack of study.
Now let me ask you this. So some of the ways, in essence, like as you said, once they sign the allegiance, it's really allegiance to their family, and it is not an allegiance to anyone else, and it is definitely not an allegiance to RVBey publication.
Right on the table.
It's not to RVBey.
Let me insert that, please. I want to end right here. Please, the name correction and proclamation, listen, you ain't read it. You have not read it if you think you're pledging an allegiance to anyone but your ancestors, your family, your lineal descent bloodline. If you think, I got a contract with RVBey Publications, Taj Sharif Bey, Great Seal, Moor Science Symbol of America, you know, the Popes of Rome. I don't care who. I mean, it's so ridiculous for anybody to say that. It's so obvious you didn't read that proclamation and name correction. Because if you did, you would completely comprehend. Or maybe you did read it and there's an issue with comprehension. In either way, you lacking. It's not my obligation to get you up with study and comprehension. It's yours. It's not even my obligation to give you this information, nor is it Rosin or Miz or Cujo or anybody else. We do it because we have found information and we choose to share it for whatever reason. So we can shut this all down and you're on your own. Hey, go and get up into the congressional records. Go dig up into the Black's Law Dictionary. Go do whatever you need to do. Get yourself up to speed on your own. That could be, should we have that? We had that before. Once the prophet passed, that's where we were. We had nobody giving us information. Not that we really needed it, because the prophet gave us more than enough. But others have come after the process to clarify, and some have found information, and rather than not make it available to the family, we made it available to the family, because it ain't easy finding some of this information. And I can tell you, a lot of the information that I found back in 2008, you can't find it today. So it's a good thing we decided to do this, because much of what you will find on the RVBey Publications website, you can't find a lot of it today. So we just did this because we want to share. We ain't obligated. We're sharing it because we want it to be available to everyone. But it is your obligation to do the necessary study. And you are not contracted to RVBey Publications, tied to RVBey, Great Seal, or the Moor Science Temple of America. Not in any way, shape, or form. And to think that, you really have not read those documents. Really have not read the documents. Look, I would challenge you to read documents at least once every month. You need to know what those documents say, how important saying is. Let me tell you how important it is. When I got my papers, I didn't have a seal. There was no sealing going on. I had my 3 witnesses. Those papers were so powerful that I was able to go and do stuff just on the strength of the words on the paper, what it was saying, lawfully. Then we added the sealing. Most people don't even understand what the seal means. They think it's some notary. It's not. People are going to employees of corporations, begging them, paying them, giving them Federal Reserve notes to do stuff that you shouldn't. Look, you will never, ever see a municipal corporation and see a Chinese or a Japanese, really, the Manchurian, come in there and talk about, can you notarize my Japanese papers? You can't see that. They know. They know about nationality. Why is it that we have so many people here on this continent, specifically the North American continent, who with so much arrogance will say, I know who I am, I'm a Moor, but you don't act like it, like Manchurian. And not wrong with being arrogant, but make sure that when you're arrogant, you're right. Don't be wrong in arrogance. Well, I just wanted to interject that right there, because I have heard people saying that, and it's so ridiculous. It says a lot. Says a lot. And I would say that Moors really be careful when you're speaking in the public, because there are always people listening, always people watching. And many times those people, they know who the Moors were. So they will be paying attention to what you are saying and doing as you profess to be a Moor. They will be paying attention to see if your actions truly support that allegiance you have claimed to the lineal descent bloodline. They're going to be paying attention to that, and they will be acting accordingly. And many of us look at that and we call these people It's as simple as that. The universe doesn't make any mistakes. Everything is exactly as it should be. It's a bitter pill to swallow. But didn't the prophet say we'd be forced to make change? So I would have to say that the only reason that you got foreigners with their foot on some of our necks the way they have it is because we're not studying. And so, like I have said, Moors become pawns. The prophet said, study, study, study. So if you do not study, these people are going to do their job and do it very well. Their job is to test you, to check and see, did you study? Or you didn't study? I got something for you. If you study, can't touch you. I can't even see if you study. But if you haven't studied, I see you, and I got something for you. Forced to make change. This is a prophecy fulfilled. So don't get mad because you didn't study, and now you're in the belly of the beast. Got devoured by the dragon, it's a wrap. That prophecy fulfilled. It's not Anna E. Go read the prophecies and the statements. It's right there. So, like I said, sometimes a little bit of information can be dangerous, especially when study is lacking. A lot of the stuff that's happening to Moors is because of lack of study. Most of it is lack of study. Some of it is tested. You might know a lot. I know a lot. But can I demonstrate it? I don't know. I haven't been tested. So when the tests show up, don't get mad. You shouldn't get mad. If you've been studying, should be a piece of cake. You're going to be a little nervous at first, but once you get on the roll, it's going to get easier. And so you'll be ready for testing because the testing does not stop. Look, claim your nationality. You were tested and failed. Now you have proclaimed your nationality. You're still going to be tested. The question is, are you going to study the information to pass, or are you going to continue to fail? The choice is yours. The obligation is yours. And with that, I yield the floor. Islam? Ron,
oh, can you hear me? Yeah. Oh, my goodness, I was trying to interject. I was wondering because I was trying to interject on something, and I'm like, wait a minute, I can't tell. Oh, man. No, we're going to build on this. Because I wanted to say when you said they're going to test to see if you're studying, essentially what is being said is as we go back to the proclamations, judicial notice and proclamation, which is, by the way, not a contract. It's a lawful notice. Once you take the allegiance that it speaks in there to your family, as you said before, not to Great Seal, not to MHHS, not to RVBey publications, not to Roz, not to Taj, not to NE, not to anybody, but to your family, which is what this is about. Then what you're saying is, you know it's not studied, and others do too, because once you take that allegiance, you still go searching for some other way or process when it's already been known that if you do nothing else, just be clear about that, and then you build on that. So what happens is they'll make that allegiance, and then they'll go and destroy it because they keep searching for process that are not applicable. Like we were talking earlier, and you know, we know that the 14th Amendment was absolutely, although it's not ratified, however, it never was meant for natural flesh and blood beings in the first place. So when you look at the fact that all of these instruments are from that, then you have to start thinking, well, who's that for? And as you mentioned, when you go and see who is it for, you will find that it is not for you. As you said, if you say, well, can you show me the rule or the law or whatever it is you're going by? And they can show it to you. You can look at it, and you can say that's not me. That's not for me. Some things are real simple. Like what's that form that it says for agricultural workers?
Oh,
what's that one called?
I think it's FF 181. I think it is.
Oh, that's the same thing. Oh, all right. Yeah, like right.
Or it might be the I-9. The I-9.
I-9. It's the I-9 and check this out. The I-9 was what everybody was, complaining about a couple of years ago. Let's say. Then they'll throw in the SF 181. They have all kinds of ways to get you into their jurisdiction. Believe me, if they pitch a ball and it's a strike, they got something else coming out. The problem is that we don't have enough information to know what's being pitched. So, for instance, the SF 181, I had gotten a letter from someone who, they were saying, well, why doesn't this person, literally, people not hear me, why doesn't this person who discovered, this is some leader guy, who discovered the SF 181 and brought it to the public, he doesn't get credit for it? And I'm like, well, why would he want to get credit? First of all, he didn't establish the SF 181. That's number one. Number two, it's for employees, correct?
Yeah.
It's for federal employees, and if you look at it, would you look at the ethnicity portion, what they say you can choose as your ethnicity? Even if they had the one for you correct, it still isn't for you, because it tells you right on that it's not based in, it's not an anthropological report. So what does that tell you? This is a little bit of study. If it's not based in anthropology, it's not an anthropological report. It has nothing to do with the human family. It has nothing to do with natural people. They're telling you, we've created these things. Hey, check one. That's all they're saying. But the crazy part is they're saying it. They say it right on the top. They say it's not, and then we still dive into that bed. But even with that being said, it's like, why would you want credit for the SF 181 being to the public? None of that applies to your position. And here's the thing, and even the prophet said, he said, if you don't do anything else, declare, right? Be clear. And in Acts 6, he says, right, claim your nationality and your national name. He says it's right there. So if that's the case, then why is it we don't get that? We got to run after whatever the next carrot thing comes or whatever someone dangles. Why is it that there's not enough for us to know that claiming what our nationality is certainly is going to separate you from those other instruments that have nothing to do with nationality? Nothing whatsoever at all. Why don't we get that? We don't seem to really get that.
I don't think people get it because, really, I think that's a big part of the issue is that, it is simple. It's simple. But too many people have brought confusion to what is simply study. That's it. Because look at let's just look at this SF 181, right? The SF 181 Corps was created by the United States Office of Personnel Management. All right? It was created to collect data for the personnel management company or branch of the United States. Now,
period.
You got some people out there pushing, you got to go and either, complete or correct the SF 181. Why? Are you a federal employee? Because the Office of Personnel Management is a branch within the union federal government. So if you're going to complete that form or correct it in any capacity, what you're saying is you're a federal employee. Now,
simple.
What does your employment, if you are not a federal employee, that's got nothing to do with it. Even if you were a federal employee, that's got nothing to do with your nationality, because your nationality is based on your lineal descent bloodline. So now, if you didn't study in college, that means you never declared your nationality. Because declaring your nationality, you declare of your nationality. So if you're not clear, you never declare. Declare, D-E-C-L-E-A-R, declare. Like you're no longer foggy, you're no longer in the dark, you now know. So if you still think that this is about employment, then you were never clear. You see, that, and it also means that if you think that you're a federal employee, there's a strong possibility that you must also think that you're a corporation.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are a corporation, there's got to be some corporate paperwork somewhere that substantiates that. And let me tell you, I don't see corporate paperwork now. That is not the birth certificate, it's not the social security number, and it's not the driver's license. I know what corporate papers look like, but if you were studying, you would know what corporate papers look like as well. You also know where to go and check to see if the corporation is alive and well. If you're a corporation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it would not be the vital statistics.
So
this is about, many people think they have declared their nationality, but you can't declare your nationality and still be confused about lineal descent bloodline versus corporate activity or a presumption of corporate activity. The two don't go together, which means if you think they go together, you never declared your nationality.
Exactly. And so now there are people who well, I don't know whether they think they're starting a nation or, I mean, they're not, but they'll sign up their, I guess they call it their family name. I don't know what they're calling it. And then they got other people to come up under it.
Now, let's go to the Quran. Let's go to the Quran on that thing. Just dawned on me. I think the Quran is probably also in the Bible. It says that anything that has a beginning
has an end.
Right? Has an end. Now, Il-Bay Day Al-Ali, I don't know where the beginning of that is, but those are the 5 families. Then here's new families that they are created. I know when they began. And I also know when they're going to end.
There's a new family with a, instead of E-L, they have E-I-L. Now, everybody knows that's something that was created, something new, or I guess
right.
New. And then they have people coming up under that. Now this is how bad the commercial concept of the mind is. You know how we have the MDMN 2012 and then the specific number that applies to the person who has a card? Well, I got someone that tells me that that's the that we have a trust, and that number is somehow related to putting them in their trust. And you know what I'm saying? I'm like, wow, this is how bad it's getting. It's really getting terrible.
Well, I am privy to 3 trusts that were set up. And these trusts were set up under under the policies and procedures of modern Europeans. Mm-hmm. All right? I know the history of trust. I have ancient documents, ancient books, old books that speak on the treaty. And I can tell you, the vast majority of people today talking about trust don't know jack about trust.
Somebody told them that's what they should do.
Yeah, well, see, and that's the problem. That's why these foreigners, the immigrants, they will say things. When you show up with your papers, they will say things like, oh, you got that off the internet. You didn't write that up yourself. 9 times out of 10, you probably did. But guess what? They stuff on the internet too. So, hey, I got my stuff, so what? I can get your stuff off the internet as well. But here's the thing. Say that, and then they will read it. Some of them will look, and I'm telling you, there have been some people who have taken those simple one-page documents off of the website, filled in their appellation and who they were sending it, didn't read the entire document, so they got some of whoever's information was in the originally still up in there. They never studied some of the words, key points. They didn't really read it, didn't study some points in the written. So when they presented to the foreigners, the immigrants, there's one word in the document read, and they can't answer. But they didn't study it. They didn't read it. Sometimes, even if you don't look up the word, you can figure out what it's trying to say based on how it is used. But they didn't even do that. So, when this thing has been infiltrated by dirty Moors and some foreigners, because it wasn't too long ago that the municipal corporation, and I think I probably have this report on record, as saying that every time they receive a rebuttal to a claim, it is costing them $25,000 to figure out what the hell the rebuttal rate is saying. That means that at that time, Moors were more on point then than they are today.
That's correct.
Not too long ago, I got the recording. $25,000, $25,000 for reserve notes. It was costing them because people wasn't just walking in and saying how much I got to put on this today. People was walking in and they knew the right words. They knew what the words meant. Okay, all right. It didn't mean they weren't there. It just meant they were studying a little bit better then than they are now. So much misinformation has been thrown into the mix that it's not costing them $25,000 million. Not. We lucky if we can get a Moor to write a writ and send it in within 3 days of receiving a claim. They have so intimidated Moors to go after processes rather than study that many Moors just ain't even showing up to rebut verbally, which automatically means they putting a warrant out or a fraudulent warrant to kidnap you or abduct you off the street because for whatever reason you didn't show up. That was never part of the protocol. Our good sister Valerie said if they make a claim, show up because they will launch a manhunt on your behind. And she's right. She also said that, look, if you're behind the study, basically, if you're studying, what's the problem? They're not studying the way they used to. They're not studying the way they used to. That's the problem.
Because they got infiltrated by others, like you said, of their own and foreigners, and really redirected down the commercial. Here's the thing. They got redirected down the commercial side, which is really kind of crazy to me. Because even if you thought that these modern Europeans were doing commerce, of which they are, what makes you think that you are injected in that by assumption? Why?
Right.
You know, why would you want to? Right. And what did you say earlier? If you really are doing commerce, what is your product? Because you're brought out clearly.
What's your merchandise?
But they're doing commerce and they don't have a merchandise. Wake up, because they're using you, and they're using the people, and they're ignorant as an assumption with instruments that are not rebutted.
That's right. Now let me put patience and go to the complicated one. You know, this complication is, well, here, you know, they got their birth certificate, you know, and their birth certificate is worth money, and then, you know, they got Social Security, it's got money in it, trust. No, that's not. No, it's not true. And I'm saying that because I did the research. But if you had some verifiable documentation to the contrary, please present it. I'm going to tell you how they make their finance. They make their finance by a presumption of services. Most of us send our children, or we ourselves, and going to they call a school. Now, the issue is not that are they educating you or not. No, don't matter, because they are providing service. They're giving information. They're doing their statistical data. All right. Now, the purpose is not to educate you. Their purpose is just to give the appearance of providing the service, and they substantiate it. Let me tell you how they substantiate. Every year when you go to school, I'm pretty sure that it's still the same. They do a test. They give you number 2 pencils, and they test it, and they collect the statistical data, and they submit it to the Fed. And in that statistical data, it shows that X amount of children couldn't read, couldn't write, didn't have good comprehension, didn't know how to do certain phonetics with words, therefore still valid in providing the service and receiving those federal dollars. That's what it's all about. As long as there is a market to give the appearance of teaching how to read, how to write, how to do simple mathematics, some comprehension, some phonetics matching, if they can show that, hey, we provided this service and the children still need our help, do this another year. That's the school, right? The hospital. The hospital starts at the grocery store, which in actuality starts at school, right? Because in the school, they don't teach you about nutrition, right? And they feed you horrible food. Actually, it starts. We've been mentally indoctrinated to give our children things other than breast milk. Now, they've done their homework. And they know for the Asiatic population, too much protein or too much iron is going to create some medical problems. The medical problem is going to bring you to this institution they call a hospital. Now, hospitals are established by grants as well, right? They're established by grants. So, they're established by, they provide, they substantiate providing a service, but they're really not providing a service. They're creating some medical challenges that is then going to substantiate you coming into their institution. And they're going to run all of these tests. You're going to run all of these tests, right? And the test is going to substantiate that, the X-ray showed, yes, there's a problem. The blood work showed, yes, there's a problem. The electromagnetic, the EEG, the EKG, all of these things are going to show, yep, there's a problem. Therefore, we were good in providing a service so we can continue getting those federal funding. Now, you can't go to a so-called hospital unless you have insurance. So the insurance companies that give you an offer of a service, just in case, you might have to go to this institution they call a hospital, which they know you're going to end up there because when you were born, they convinced your mother to give you formula that is full of protein and iron, which works against the Asiatic population negatively, rather than just have breast milk. And then even after you were weaned on the year, they gave you things like cow's milk, which is going to eventually, in many of us, create an issue of asthma because it's full of mucus, which our bodies can't deal with. So these are just a few of the proposals that have been submitted to the Fed for federal funding to provide services to the unconscious Moorish community so that these corporations can continue to survive because they don't have a product. And technically, they're really not offering a service. We don't wake up and take control and responsibility for our lives, they will continue to profit off of it. And you'll have unenlightened Moors running around talking about out there, oh, they're doing commerce. No, you got to have some merchandise for that. And you can't be the merchandise. That would be human trafficking, not commerce. Islam, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I was laughing. I was laughing at what you said. So what we're saying here is the people have been redirected for whatever reason. They're walking right into the human trafficking and trying to sit comfortable with it, calling it commerce. Because we're breaking this down that even if you thought they were doing commerce, what is their product or service?
Yep. That's right.
And it doesn't exist.
and it doesn't. It doesn't. And this is what you have to accept. You're going to always be rebutting people. You're always going to be rebutting them. You're always. That's why you got to study and you got to know how to write a writ off the writ. All right? It's all well and good that you can go to RVBey Publications and download a writ. Those writs put up there, and they were put up there like that so that you can have an idea of a format and that you can have an idea of how to structure a writ, and it has a lot of case laws, so that you begin to build your library of case laws. But you don't need all of that case law in every single writ, because it may not be appropriate. But we give it to you so that you can begin to build your library of case law. I have over 5,000, probably even more, case law that I have gathered over the years. Actually, I got way more than that because I got Black's Law Dictionary, and that is nothing more than case law. All right? Mm-hmm. I got Bouvier Dictionary. I got Valentine Dictionary. Law, all law dictionaries. All of the definitions is case law. So you have to build up your library so that when you're writing up a writ, you can go to your library and copy and paste the case law into your rebuttal, your writ, whatever you're talking about. Do not think that you're going to have some kind of diplomatic immunity or some kind of immunity just because you think you drafted up a trust or you think that you're utilizing some uniform commercial code or you think that you have some grand process regarding commerce. That's not going to help you, baby. You got to know how to rebut word for word, point for point. And don't throw something on the table that they didn't put there. See, that's another thing that the foreigners do. They come at you and they, for example, you're traveling, all right? This is why most people lose the issue of right to travel. They might say, oh, you're traveling without a driver's license, insurance, registration, license, insurance, right? Most Moors go in there and they say, I'm Moorish American national and you don't have jurisdiction. Was those any of the three issues that they put on the table? Did they say anything in their claim about your nationality or jurisdiction? Was those in the three that they put on the table? No, they were not. All right?
So in other words, they never answered the claim.
Yes, they never answered the claim. Never. A very, very wise Moor said to me, listen, and there was not even anything relative to right to travel. Actually, he said to me, whatever they say in the paper, that's what you rebut. Don't add, don't take away.
Yep, that's right. That's right. And that's what happens. They never answer their claim.
Never answer the claim. Never.
Claim.
Exactly. Absolutely fraudulent claim. Let me tell you, if you had been studying all these years, I got into this information in 2008. I was studying, trying to stay under the radar. Study. Let me tell you, study. Just keep on studying. The universe is going to present your test when the time is right. You don't have to go and create a situation at all, because when it's time, universe is going to make it happen. There ain't going to be a damn thing you can do about it, so you better be ready.
Wow.
So just study. Just study, and don't stop studying, because when it's time for you to get tested, the universe is going to put you right in the middle of it. Better be ready, because let me tell you, that happened to me 3 times. 3 times. The first time it happened, I did not want to do it. I did not want to do it. Let me tell you again, I did not want to do it. But I wrote up my rebuttal, and it was in the mail within 3 days. Before I had to make my visitation, I put my suit in. I was doing my suit and them at the same time, and then I said, wait a minute. I wrote up a written. I told them, this is why you got to know how to write a written. You got to know a little bit of law. I said, this is undue stress on me because I have to answer in two different arenas when in actual, I mean, the wording, this is why you got to read too, because you have to be able to talk like a Moor. Somebody who's Negro, colored, black, got to be able to talk like a Moor. You got to use your words. So when you write in your when you're writing your writ, I was like, this is undue stress on my person because I'm being made to answer to a claim, an alleged claim in this arena and in this arena, when in actuality, once I put in this suit, that should have created an automatic estoppel. So I was in two places at the same time. One I was forced to go to, and the other one I went to. And then, on top of all of that, I went and put in a third suit for the same issue. And I was doing all three of them in my ear, creating enormous stress. And let me tell you, what saved me was that I had studied and I had a firm foundation in law, because all my rebuttals was based on the Constitution 100%. I was slaying the dragon until the dragon, I was supposed to go back, and they never sent me an invitation to come back. So she'll go right to the United States Supreme Court for 75 notes. Yes, the hell I will, because it's the principle. You're like, we can just drop this down to 35. Nope, not doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
But you have to do that, because let me tell you, a very wise person said, you gotta send out notices, and let me tell you, your name correction and proclamation, that's your preliminary notice. But whenever you're getting ready to do something, you have to notify all the parties. You can't just step out and do it and then get mad when they stop you like, hey, I don't know who you are. What are you talking about? You said what? You don't have to have a driver's license? Well, this is the law here. See, if you had a sent notice to these people, lawful notice, expressing your position, they wouldn't be acting. I'm not going to say they wouldn't be acting like that, but strong possibility that they will get the memo. It's all an exercise. All of this is an exercise. It is to prepare you. Everything that I went through in the past, 2-3 months regarding my mother, it was all a revelation. It was not an easy revelation, but it was nonetheless a revelation. I saw how we're just many of us, I don't care if you calling yourself a Moor or not, you're still asleep. Vast majority of us, we have no clue what we're dealing with. These foreigners, they have everything set up to make finance off of us from we are conceived until well after we pass form. And we don't have a clue. We're sitting here having arguments about a trust, uniform commercial code, and commerce. Meanwhile, these people are using us to generate revenue. And the universe will unveil to you. If you can shut your mouth long enough and just use the 2 eyes and the 2 ears, you will see and hear so much. This is why in the Holy Bible it says, those who had eyes to see, they will see. And he who has ears to hear, you will hear. They didn't make no mention about the one mouth that yakety yak talk all the time. Because, honey, if you run in your mouth, you can't see or hear nothing. I was silent. I was quiet. I was forced to be quiet and silent and deal with everything that I was going through. And because of that silence, I saw a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I also saw that many of us, you know, probably it's written, many suffer for lack of knowledge. We suffer for lack of knowledge. It ain't just the Moors. Everybody is suffering for lack of knowledge. Everybody. Because if we could, go ahead.
No.
Well, if we could just see a little bit, just see and hear a little bit. It ain't just the Moors. This would be a breakfast fight for everybody. It really would be. But we're so divided, and we're all having petty fights about nothing. Petty fights about nothing. And that's why we're still here after breakfast doing the same thing.
Well, that brings me to what I was going to say. You had mentioned, and I remember some years ago, we were talking. You had called me up, and you had said, "Wow, I found this website, and these modern Europeans, they just realized that they are not the Aboriginals." You were mentioning how they were trying in 2008. They were using the trust situation. It didn't work for them very well. I mean, it didn't, because they're not the Aboriginals of the land.
Not only are they not the Aboriginal, their entire position was absolutely wrong. And many of them went to prison. Many of them are in prison still. They went to prison. And the Moors, a lot of the Moors, going down the same rabbit hole. And it ain't because you're not the heir. Well, some of you are not the heirs because we've got to know who the heir is. But it's not that this is not our inheritance. It's that the position that you're taking has nothing to do with lineal descent, bloodline, and inheritance.
Exactly.
You can't make a claim about lineal descent, bloodline, and inheritance and be talking commerce. The two don't go together. You either have a claim as an inheritance based on your lineal descent bloodline, all right, or you don't if you are going the commerce route, because commerce only gives you the use. That's it. Let me tell you, these foreigners are so terrified of us really waking up. Because if we really woke up and got together and stopped all this petty fighting, their use of the land would end.
I'm only laughing because, you know, people say, well, we need to have our own land. We don't get it. Or we need to have our own government. We don't get that either.
No,
not at all. Oh, excuse me. Not at all.
We got our own land. But many of us, how many people can take a seed and plant it and grow something? Because, you know, if you can plant one thing and keep it going, you can plant a couple of things around the house and keep it going. You know, if we look back at our ancestors had stuff growing outside and inside. But we want to be like modern Europeans so bad. We want the glass and mirror house museum, because it ain't a house. The white furniture with the white rug, you know, because that's what they promote. They promote living in a place that looks like nobody lives there. That's what they promote. No plants, no vegetation growing, just very void and sterile. That's what they might be about, but that's not what we are about. If we had a house, the house had multiple, it wasn't just a place to go lay your head. It was actually how you survived. You didn't have to go outside of your house because everything you needed was inside and around the perimeter of the house, including your water, because we knew how to find that. There's main veins of water everywhere. We knew how to find it. We didn't need to depend on a water treatment plant. And we knew how to purify it. So we didn't depend on Pure or Brita. And we were self-sufficient. But we got lazy. Many of us don't know how to do nothing but antagonize each other. And that's not going to put food in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
We have to, and all of this can be resolved if we just make the mental decision. Once you make the decision, I've done this in my life. Once I make the mental decision, it's almost as if stuff drops right in your lap. But there's a key to that. You have to make the mental decision, and the mental decision has to be in harmony with everyone and everything. It can't take away just so that you can have. So if it's harmonious, it'll be like the solution drops right in your lap, literally. People will knock on your door out of the blue or call you up and offer you exactly what you need. Life is not supposed to be difficult. This is not supposed to be difficult. It's only long and difficult because we complicate it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It really is. We complicate it. All of what we're experiencing, it was put in place by you for your spiritual growth. So if there's something going on in your life or within you that is not harmonious, you need to check within yourself where it comes from.
Mm-hmm. People don't really want to hear that one. I want to bring up one other thing. We were talking, and I just put a note on it. I don't know where it fit in at per se, but, as we're talking about the misconceptions that we have about who we are and what is what, the Aboriginal, that's another thing that people, I think it's the people that are coming in new that are being led by others. They don't know any better. But it's unfortunate because you're going to have to know, or you're going to be gobbled up by the dragon, as they say, as you have said. Mm-hmm. It is just so true. And so they'll say, well, this recently came. I want you to take off Aboriginal off the card, and I don't want Native on there. And then they start giving me what they think are right definitions and jurisdictions, and I'm like, no, we're Aboriginal to the entire planet, and native and true natives to all of the planet. Modern Europeans are the ones who are not that. Now, if you let somebody convince you not to use Aboriginal, which is the distinction between those trying to claim indigenous, because I notice our people, they'll say, I'm indigenous, but they don't use Aboriginal. The only people that can use Aboriginal are us. So now other foreigners are trying to use indigenous. They would love for you to give up Aboriginal because that's the one thing they cannot use. It's Aboriginal. Now they say, oh well, ab means it's what is it they say, that it's taken from, or like it's something wrong with it. Now if you listen to Abdul with the etymology, she will tell you and break that down to you that it does not mean that in the word Aboriginal. However, if I could give you why, and that it's actually spiritual, because man is mind, all right? So you're coming from, when you come into this body form, you are Aboriginal too, because you're coming, the only thing you're coming from or apart from is the fact that man is mind and coming into the body or into the flesh. So please don't let anybody, please study enough to know that you do not want to give up Aboriginal. It is the distinction. So if you're Aboriginal, you're indigenous, of course. But if you're indigenous, it does not mean you're Aboriginal. And you notice that these modern Europeans are trying to take that. They're in all the they tried to take Native American, and attach it to Indian. Well, that just fell apart because there's no such thing as Native Indian or whatever like that. So they found themselves where? All up in auto reservations, trying to be indigenous. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. It's not funny.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's real. It's real. So someone's out there redirecting the minds of the people of the Moors who are becoming conscious, and they really are not, they don't know what they're talking about. So you kind of feel for them because they're walking right into the human trafficking, but they don't identify it as human trafficking. They don't identify it, but it is human trafficking. And, they're walking into it, and they're going to bring their babies that come into that, and they'll be right. They'll be right, because in these times it is you is or is you ain't. I always have to say, I know that's incorrect grammar, but, I know that it is, but that's where it's at. The time is at hand, always is at hand, but it really is important. And I think, Honey Eve, there's a lot of people who realize that somewhere in them. You know how the King Alfred has reported in it that lots of people are going to know something's wrong, but they're not going to know what to do about it,
right.
Where to go. Right. I think a lot of people are experiencing that now. And some who may have studied, they know that it's important to confess your own right now. It is so ultra important. You have no idea what is about, not like what is about to go down, like I can tell you exactly this. Even if I could, I wouldn't, because I can't, because it's a conflict that cannot be told in words. It's an experience.
That's right.
So
that's right.
That,
you know what? That's right. And you know what? This is why, people really need to read the prophecies and the statements. Like, you really need to read it, like, at least once a week, because if you read it, you're watching the prophecies
unfold. Yes.
They're being fulfilled. I mean, one after another, after another, after another. They all be. He said the destruction will start in the south, and in the past couple of weeks, you've had a 8.3 hurricane. 8.3 earthquake in Mexico. That's the south. You had
and another
Texas got tore up from the flow up. That's the south. Florida and many of the islands, all the way up to the Carolinas. Boy, that's
wait a minute, hold on. Don't you know what just happened today? Though there was another 7.1 in Mexico. All right, 2 weeks ago
what?
There was an 8 point. Yes, today. And you know what else happened today? It's happening right now as we speak. Puerto Rico, or the corporate veil, Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands, they are working off of the aftermath of Irma. Irma, is it? and they don't have power and clean water, and they're in that condition. And do you know that as we speak right now, they're getting hit with a Jose and Maria, what's the name? Category 5, wow. And guess what? They already are rationing. Look, they're rationing out baby formula, which they shouldn't even be using, as we say. But anyway, they're rationing out. Yeah, they're rationing out food and things right now before the storm even hits on a Category 5 coming down on them. All right?
Wow.
They're rationing now. So what do you think? We might not hear nothing from none of them after it hits because they're rationing. Yeah.
Well, somebody told me like 85 to 95 of Bermuda is gone. How do you rebuild it?
Yeah.
It's gone.
Oh, and let me say this. On the New Jersey coastline, so-called New Jersey coastline, shoreline, as we speak, before the tide has even risen, today, I'm saying, the erosion down in the Wildwood area specifically, which is right there near Cape May, and Cape May is the absolute end of New Jersey, as far south as you can go. There are, you know how the beach erodes? There is 6-foot cliff drop. That's what it did today. Before the high tide, which is now, like around 10 o'clock, they'll be doing the report on how that fared. 6 foot, in other words, it wasn't there before those waves started beating up on it, but there's 6 foot drop. Yeah, eroding the land. So, yeah, we're living in it. And we're arguing over, I think I want to, get my trust together and do commerce with mine and your pens. And, that's the answer. I mean, really crazy.
Well, but see, all of this is in the prophecies and the statements. Prophet Noble Jew Ali, he already told us this was going to happen. He told us that there would be, he said, some wearing turbans and feathers will come and put you right back in slavery. He told us this. This is why we need to study. He told us that the destruction would start in the south, and there's so many prophecies where he said that the numbers of us is going to be drastically reduced. Why would our numbers be drastically reduced? This is a question that we need to think about. What would be the reason? Because I can tell you. Because he said we're hard-hearted people who don't never do nothing except by the point of a sword. That means that we're going to resist what? Making change. Even in the midst of being forced to make change, we're going to resist. And see, you can't stop the inevitable. This is prophecy. This actually is this is what we're here for. We're here to wake up and go with the flow instead of fighting it all the time. We're here to create a world of peace and harmony, not a world of confusion and disharmony. That's it. So if we're not creating that, then there's no need for you to be here.
And that's why you might be removed.
That's right.
For real.
And it's not anybody, nobody is making that determination. You are, by your lack of action or your action. Your action or lack of action that is going to determine the outcome for you. For you. And so often, everybody is caught up in saving everyone else. Isn't it crazy that you might give information to someone else and they take it and save themselves, but you don't, and you're not here. You get taken out. That's ridiculous. It don't make no sense. And it's not that you gave them the information and they woke up. The information was always within them. It's like it's within all of us. It's in our DNA. Oh, it's always been there waiting for us to pull it up and use it.
That's a fact.
But if we're so caught up in all these various different foolish distractions that do nothing for us, you will never quiet yourself, do the necessary studying that will demonstrate to self, this information can come up because they have reached a point where they can receive that which is already within them. Right? You can't put anything in a cup that is already full. Many of us are full of crap. So you got to go empty that pot out.
Absolutely.
And you're the only one that can do it, right? You're the only one that can do it. Nobody can do it for you. You can kick and scream and have your temper tantrums every day, as some of you do. It ain't going to change the fact that only you can do it.
How about
nobody
that?
else. You got people sitting here talking about, well, I'm going to create a consulate office and y'all can just come to me and I'll take care of you. I didn't read nothing like that the prophet brought. I didn't read nothing like that.
Well, the temples are supposed to be regencies, but they're not.
Well, even with that, the temples, what I read is temples are supposed to be a place where you can go and, because a lot of us, we have our feelings and emotions and our mental status, our mental capacities, they've been injured. So you go to the temple to get, mother, supposed to, she hug you and rub on you, make you feel good, make you feel like, okay, I can go out there and kick some butt. And while she's rubbing on you and everything, she's giving you some information, taking that information in. So by the time you're ready to, you ready to put the armor back on, go on up out there and kick butt.
You get ministered to. You get ministered to.
That's right. See? There you go. So you ain't supposed to be in the temple warming a seat. That's where you go to get, rejuvenated. And then once you're rejuvenated, you put your armor back on and you go out there and kick butt.
Yeah, well, that's not going to happen from that perspective.
That's what's supposed to be happening. That's not what's happening because ain't no mama there to rub you down and make you feel good and give you the pep talk and, put the bandages on you.
Wait a minute, you making it sound, hold on, you said rub you down, you making it sound like a little brothel. You don't mean it that way.
No, because everybody
I know you don't mean it that way, but people might say that.
Mother, you come in there, and you tell mom all your pains and hurts, and while you're telling her, she's rubbing your back. That and because it's the rubbing of the back that's going to encourage you to talk more, and sometimes you need to bring some of that up through tears, which is a cleansing, and that rubbing on the back, that helps you to bring it up. If you've seen Ayana, she does it all the time, right? Ayana fixed my life. She come on, baby, bring it up. Tell everybody. She rubbing your back. You can be as strong as you want to be, but mama's just going to rub your back. Before you know it, you're bubbling like a fool. You just bring it. It's all coming out like vomit. And when she fixes it, it's like, yeah, baby, just keep on, bring it up.
What's that sound?
Are you done? Some more? Come on.
What about when you said put some words to that sound? Bring it up.
Anybody who has a mother, you've experienced that. If you watch Ayana Fix My Life, you've seen it. That's the only person that can do that is mother. She ain't gonna rush you. Come on, I gotta be somewhere in 5 minutes. Come on, get up. She's never gonna do that. Mother will she start rubbing on your back. You pour out your heart to her, 'cause you know she got you. That's what used to be in simple.
That's true ministry.
That's what used to be in simple. That's why if you read, Prophet Noble Drew Ali was busy on the streets going out and doing stuff. He was over in Cuba, Havana, the White House. He's over in Great Britain. You know, he's doing the damn thing. Who was holding down the temple? Mother. He could go and do what he had to do because Mother was there. What was she doing? She was ministering. She was putting the Band-Aids on the cut, putting the little, what was that brown stuff? The brown stuff, what was that? Iodine? She put iodine.
I remember that. Iodine, yes. Anything wrong, just throw some iodine on it.
Iodine on you. Yep. She took care of you. She took care of the flock so that Noble Drew Ali could go out and build bridges with our family down in Cuba and go and put the fear of Allah in Hoover.
Whoever
was sitting over there over in Great Britain. I know her damn hair must have turned white when Prophet Noble Drew Ali walked up in that palace talking about, I'm here.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
You look at her now, her hair's still white. He could do that. He went over to where was it? He went over there to oh my gosh, and did Hajj over there.
Yeah, I know you're talking about his trip.
He went over to Mecca. How could he do that if the temple wasn't being held down by Mother?
And he didn't have a passport either.
Didn't have passport. Look at that. Didn't have passport, birth certificate, driver's license. All right, Social Security card. Of course, all of those things came a couple years later, but
he warned you.
He said, you don't need that mess. He already knew it was coming. Look, before it was created, he said, there's no need for the 14th and the 15th Amendment.
For the
what
salvation
did he say? He said, there is no need for the birth certificate, driver's license, Social Security card, passport. That's what he was saying.
Oh.
Why is there no need? Because you're not a freaking corporation. But if you think you're a corporation and you ain't studied enough to know that you're not a corporation and stand on that with law and principles, then you'll be running around talking about, I'm doing the birth certificate card, that redemption. Yeah, yep, I got index. I'm straight.
That reminds me. Let me do this and then I'll be straight after that. That reminds me. I got my trust.
I'm the grantor. Really? Our ancestors got to be rolling in the grave. How is he the grantor? I gave him the shit.
That's right. That's what the whole inheritance is about. You could never be the grantor. It was granted to you. You know, and you know, I think that's why the prophet said, look, this is divine and national, all right?
Yeah.
But divine is first. It's on that.
You know what? You know why it's divine? Because it's all going to happen. All of this, everything that's happening, it is absolutely divine. Really, it is. It may not feel divine, but it is. The only reason it doesn't feel divine is because many of us are functioning on fear and lack of information. But if you do the studying is going to help you to overcome the fear, and you're going to see the divinity in everything.
Yes, and that reminds me. Go ahead.
I said there are no mistakes. There are no mistakes, people. There are no mistakes. Everything happens exactly the way it's supposed to.
The other reason why it's divine is all that other stuff is truly, truly fiction and delusion and illusion, and it's not real. I mean, like what's real. But it's the false evidence that appears real. That's what it is. And so all of it is going to go. It's going to fall. It's just like when people, like I think you were talking earlier, and I know that we were at some point about the FRN. That's not money. You know what I mean? And it really is like worth nothing. It's just a medium of exchange. But remember that as the natural people, like we think, you can trade in anything you want to. But the one thing I would suggest you don't trade in is yourself going into this commercial stuff without a product, going into this commercial stuff, signing up and letting them know that, and doing whatever the UCC and the commercial redemption bull stuff on their document that they made, and essentially, like we said, you're saying that you're the product. You're walking into the human trap. You're walking right into their hands. It's a beautiful thing for them because as they're falling, you're helping to prop them up with your. That's what you're actually doing because now they got numbers. And same with those people who say that we're members/citizens of the U.S.A. It's such a sad travesty because you're giving them numbers to their corporate construct. You're saying that you're profiting, and so all of it's going to fall, and then you're being set up right now for them to go back to what the only thing they've ever really known is slavery, the concept of slavery. It didn't have a color, or when I say color, I mean it didn't matter. Like it's slavery. It's just slavery. In fact, as we were finding out, the original slave was them anyway. So they're propping you up to be ripe for their picking because you think that you need to go into commerce with them, and they don't even have a damn product. So you're going to end up being the product because of this that you're doing. Trust and believe that. And but by all the things that you're signing and agreeing to, those are the instruments they're going to use against you. And what does that mean? That means the last thing you put on the record stands. You're going to end up having to declare anyway. You're going to end up having to proclaim anyway, one way or another, to get out of this. Because that is not going to save you from being willingly participating in serving yourself up with their instrument. That's a piece of crap. That's something that proves human trafficking. As you said earlier, Annie, the rest of the nation, the rest of the world is laughing. Then what a joke this is. They don't get it yet. So you're going to end up having to back yourself up out of that. And let me tell you, in these days and time, if you didn't know anything about contracts and adhesions, meaning that which was hidden from you, like we're not even talking the small print. We're talking about the print ain't even there. You said yes to this and didn't read because we know you didn't read. Because if you were, you wouldn't even be doing that crap, to be honest with you. And then it says that you are adhered to something else that was not really table, and you're going to find yourself trying to back up out of that kind of stuff because they are seriously falling, and you are just saying, hey, here I am. So the divine, that's it, and that's all. You don't know it now, and you're not listening when anyone tries to tell you. And because you don't have that foundation of what nationality is and what birthrights are, or what divine being that you are, because you truly don't have that, this is why you're going into all of these other things. But you're going to be forced to know that, and many will be trying to back up out of those things, but you're going to be caught in it, probably, depending on how far you go into that web, because the thing is they're setting it up real good right now. And we know that's evident by how many people are falling. Because how are you going to have a trust with that has anything to be identified with them? How is that possible when they actually have nothing? They don't even have a service in nature, and you believe they're commerce. I mean, really? Mm-hmm. Really? So that's part of what the divinity of it all. You're going to have to rest in that. So you're going to be forced to. And some people right now realize it now. And this is another reason why the prophet even said for those who have their nationality card proper. We're not talking about nationality cards with barcodes on them, because that just takes every allodial thing you said and puts it and says, yep, it's commercial. My birthright, me, is about a product and commerce. Now, people don't really get that, Eddie. They think it's just so cool. I saw this little video, YouTube, and this guy, he was like, "Bam, see that? This is the real code." And he turned the card over, and I looked over to the left of the card, and I froze it for a second, and it said something to the effect of the jurisdiction of the United States, or something, or I gotta go back and get it. And they didn't even pay attention that was on there. They were so marveled at the fact that you could just shoot this at the barcode, and all this beautiful, wonderful allodial information comes up, and they don't realize what they have done. You know what I mean? They just think that's cool. Yeah. And why? Because that's what they have seen done. I mean, why do they think that's cool? I don't,
lack of information. Just lack of information.
So, backing out of it is going to be what you're going to end up having to do if you can. But trust me, you will be forced to do so. And as we're saying, you might not be adhering and listening now, but you will be. Now, one of the things is the prophet has said that your card, I'm talking about for those who have proper cards, whether they be from us or whoever or whatever, will change in your pocket. So if he said it will change in your pocket, it seems like to me that means that you might have it and still don't know what you have. You still don't know what you have. But that brings me, they don't. So at some point, now some people will be graced to know, and then other people won't. So because not everybody's going to get it. And then some people are going to go so far down that rabbit hole that they won't get a chance to get back out. You know what I mean? Because you're really putting yourself right in it. Yeah, they won't. This is why we're warning you. This is why we're warning you. Just sit back. Don't do anything that you're not sure of. Don't do anything because you think these people are government. It was just explained to you that everything that they have is from funding. Right? And they'll tell you it's something else. But if you had knowledge of that, then you know how to approach it and know how not to get yourself caught up in any fronts they put in front of you, like, you can get these benefits of whatever, but first sign here, and then you sign in. I'm just going to be Negro, colored, and black so that I can have food. No, that's not what it's about. Mm-mm. And then what about that? Yeah. And then what about that? Well, you're just too lazy. You don't want to, our taxes are paying for. Who's saying that? Because first of all of the public officials, federal employees, all the corporations, they're the ones who are supposed to be paying taxes for operating on your land. It doesn't mean
that's right.
It doesn't mean, like, remember I told you that person sent me this thing and said that we teach people not to work? That's not what we were saying. But the fact of the matter is that if you should be in need, it's your stuff that they're operating on. Believe me, it's all set up. You just have to know how to do it. Now you're looking at other people saying, oh, why don't you do this and why don't you do? You know what? You got to just stay on your narrow road. But we don't do what you we don't do what you can do yourself. And that's the way our ancestors. If you go back even a little bit, you will never find any ancestor saying, can somebody make sure that we got heat? They had heat. Oh, the water got turned off. Can somebody make sure we got some water? No, they made sure they had the water. And we may not have had electricity like we got today, but we had light. And some places had technology that surpasses what we're using today. That's right.
Because we're so caught up in following a foreign species, the immigrants, all right, time, like the prophet said, to study, because if you study, the information that you need is going to come from within you. But in order for the information to come from within, you have to study. You have to quiet your mind. You have to learn how to listen to the silence within you. That's the only way that you're going to get that information that is called the attic chamber. Oh, people been to the people be, oh, I just came from the attic chamber, really? All right.
Oh, that reminds me. I got a perfect example of how they set things up. So now we're going to say this today, and many people are going to not, they might not, see it. I noticed that they have now these commercials. I didn't have this discussion with you, but you may have seen it. They got this stuff set up now where if you're now, first let me just say, true Social Security is taking care of your own family, your elders in your family. That's true Social Security. But when I say Social Security, I am not talking about the Social Security number or the Social Security Administration. See, they got you thinking about that instead of about what Social Security really is, especially for elders. So now they have this thing. I want to know what you think of this thing where they're putting out, we'll give you money to take care of your elders. Boy, are they putting out a hook. Lord, you know how many people are going to go for that, and then 10 years from now, or even less than 10 years from now, it's just an easy way to take all your family stuff.
And you know what else that is? Mm-hmm. That's a form of foster care, so-called foster care. Now, let me tell you why, because Roz is correct. For Social Security, if you go back, and I don't have to go back too far, let me tell you what Social Security used to be within our family. You had 3 generations living under one roof. Sometimes you might have 4. Because you had grandmother, well, you had if you were lucky, well, actually, it wasn't even about luck because, see, we didn't live and eat the way we do today. So we did have great-grandmother, grandmother, mother, and child, all under the same roof. All right? Great-grandmother and grandmother took care of and helped with the children, the house, the cooking, whatever, the gardening. All right? Mother might have worked outside of the house or not, and children, they were there. I remembered it. Modern Europeans, the foreigners, the immigrants, they mentally conditioned us, hurry up and move out. Because your parents don't understand you. They're behind the time. They need to get with the program. We don't have 4 generations under one roof anymore. We're lucky if we have 2. So we don't have social security anymore. So because they mentally conditioned us away from that ensuring that the family is provided for, ensuring that the family is provided for, they can now submit a new proposal for federal funding, pay for this.
Yep.
And now they're going to give you some credit, some IOU instruments, so that you can do what we used to do as a family unit, but without the family unit.
You said something? And they got their hands in it, though. So they're going to pay you to take care of your elder.
Now, this is what's going to happen, because I'm going to tell you, I can tell you, 90%, and that's being conservative, 90% of all funding that they receive that is supposed to be administered to the people, 90% of that goes to the so-called administration. 1% of the 10% that remains makes it to people, because they give you all kind of qualifications and hoops and ladders that you got to slide up and jump over to get what was earmarked for you anyway. So of the 100%, only 1% of the 10% that is left after they gobble it up for so-called administration goes to the people. It's a scam. It's a big scam, and we fall for it all the time. Because we don't understand family value anymore.
Wow.
We don't understand the value of family. We don't understand the value of unity. We don't even comprehend, really, many of us, what it means to be a family. We're so divided. Oh, I'm a Washita. Oh, I'm a Milwaukeean. Oh, I'm a ill. I'm a ill bag. Come on, that doesn't even exist. And Washita, with all due respect to Empress Verdiasi, all right, I got the tape. She said, I am a Moor first, because that's nationality.
That's great.
And I'm a Washita second, because that's the family, the particular family lineage.
Right.
But her nationality was Moor, and she was wearing fez.
Was it a white one? Did she have a white dress?
I don't remember. I don't remember if white. I gotta go back and look at that video.
It doesn't matter.
It was so long ago. But I remember. I remember seeing her. But many of us, like right on this call right now, you got people who are I ain't a part of them. I don't know what they talking about. Right now on this call, if we, we're going to take some calls. We got to take some calls in a minute because we got like probably in 40 minutes left to the broadcast. But there's going to be some people that come on and say some stuff, and you're going to have some people listening. They're going to say to themselves in their mind or verbally, I don't know who that, whatever is, well, I ain't related to them. That's not family. That's their mindset. But we're all family. Asiatic, we're family.
That's right.
If your mind is European, that's a different species. But we're all. If you are Asiatic, we are all family. It is one family.
It's only Occidentals and Orientals.
These modern Europeans, foreigners, immigrants, they got us thinking that if we don't have the same name, or if we wasn't birthed from the same womb, or if some of us was family, and I've experienced this. One family, most of the children was born in one location, and then you might have one or more that was born in a different location. And within that family, they got division because the ones that think they was born where it's at is superior to the ones that was born somewhere else. That's some crazy mess. Then you got people, islands, in the islands you see this real strong. Oh, I'm a Jamaican. Oh, I'm not a Jamaican. I'm a Trinidadian. Oh, I'm not a Trinidadian. I'm a Barbadian. Oh, I'm not a Barbadian. I'm a whatever. All of those are corporations. None of you are that.
And our species. Yes. It's just like even with Puerto Rico. Everybody knows Puerto Rico went the corporation went bankrupt. You know what I mean? Remember a few months back?
But we've been saying Puerto Rico and nothing but a corporation. And then what did they do? Right across all media outlets. Puerto Rico, Municipal Corporation, bankrupt.
And a corporation of the what? Of the U.S. U.SA.
Yes.
On top of that,
Municipal Corporation,
which is Roman, right? Right. How the hell did a municipal corporation? Well, because it's a corporation. That's not the land. That's a corporation.
That's a corporation. And then the other thing is, how does the United States of America, how does Puerto Rico get to be some type of an enclave of the United States of America? I'm going to tell you why. Because if you look at the history of Puerto Rico was established by, I want to say, Spain, I think.
Spanish.
But there was a hostile takeover that took place. Because we're talking corporation, not landman. Hostile takeover that took place, and a whole bunch of corporate wars went on for a very long time. And as a result, nobody made no money. So, the fighting, so that both parties can now make money, they sat down and they drew up an agreement. And they said, we're going to give this up to you, and in exchange, you're going to give us something else. And we're going to give you back your stuff, and you give us back our stuff, and we'll call it a day. And that's how Puerto Rico became an enclave of the United States of America, when initially it was a part of the Spain Corporation. Same thing with Florida. Right? Florida, Louisiana was a part of French Corporation. All of this is nothing more than hostile takeover. That's it.
Right.
Today's language. That's all it was. And that's all it still is. So they had to then get the people, and Sister Valerie, she breaks it down. She says how they tricked the people into giving up their nationality in exchange for being U.S. citizens.
Wow.
They tricked the people. And so because of this trickery, this is why Prophet Noble Drew Ali came to give you back your nationality. He didn't give you what you didn't have. He simply expressed to you, you always had it. These people over here just had you thinking you didn't. That's all he did. He didn't give you nothing that you didn't have. He just came, he brought you back the comprehension of your nationality. That's why he said, look, we'll be out of here in a minute. But if you don't do nothing, you better be clear. You best be clear about your lineal descent bloodline.
Yep. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Wow, that is you.
You best be clear about your lineal descent bloodline, because they tricked you out of it before, and I'm bringing it back. I'm breaking it down. I'm writing it down here. I'm not going to give you it in a manual because that's too thick to get a little bit confused. I give it to you in little pieces. You study it now.
Right.
Study it now.
And he said, yeah. He said, yeah, right. And he said, well, and also, thing hasn't been told. I can't give you everything because you'll just go right to sleep. So say that again. Just study it now. Study it now. Study it now. You know what I mean? And that was it. And that was the important thing. And on that note, before we open the lines, let me just use a small example of how we don't comprehend and how other people out there, Moor, are posting things and taking off the actual meaning. Remember what I read to you on 1028, that paragraph?
Yes.
Let me use this as an example of how we don't read, how we don't study, how we don't comprehend, maybe even if we do read. You said that earlier. So, Section 1028 of Title 18, 1028, right? It designates, this is the United States Code on how everybody's supposed to operate, right? I didn't say UCC code, commercial code. So because that section talks about identification, it says that it designates 3 special non-federal identification documents and gives them preferred treatment. These 3 documents in the absence of a national identity card. So that means if you had a national identity card, those 3 documents were not necessary. You know what the 3 documents are?
Mm-hmm.
Huh? They're not necessary.
What?
If you have a national... what'd you say?
I said what?
What the 3 documents are that are not necessary. Let's say that again. That are not necessary if you have a national identification card. But let me say this. The 3 documents are the birth certificate, the driver's license, and it's a personal identification card. But you got to read what they say a personal identification card is, because it's a non-driver's card issued from the DMV. Now, the only reason these 3 are used, and they say they're commonly used. They even say in here they were never intended to be identification. But because of the lack of a better document, what are they saying? Because you're not coming with the national ID, well, we'll give you these then. But they're not IDs. They were never intended to be. They are and as far as the driver's license is concerned, it tells you what it's for those who are driving, not traveling. So what are they saying to you? They could never issue you a national identification card, ever, because they're not national. They're quasi-national domicile. The states are, and the municipalities, that's Roman citizenship. So none of those two could ever issue a national identification card because it comes from your national family, and they're not that. Not because they're not that because they don't look like you. They're not that because they're not a national venue, period. Okay?
Right.
So what are they saying? I want the Real ID Act. That's what it's all about, a Real ID. Because none of these things are a Real ID. It says so right in the description. Now, let me just tell you what people do. What I read to you, where it says these three documents in the absence of a national identification card are prime means by which an individual can establish his identity in the United States. The three documents are birth certificate, driver's license, right, and personal ID. Then it goes to explain what each one of them are. And in A, it explains the birth certificate, and it basically tells you that it's hearsay, that it never was meant. It's self-explanatory. It even says it. It's self-explanatory. It is not defined in United States Code 1028 dealing with IDs because it's not an ID, okay? However, it says that I'm not going to read the whole thing. It says, obviously, a birth certificate is not intended to actually identify the person who claims such a document pertains to him. There are a few physical characteristics that remain the same as those at the time of the birth, nevertheless. So what they're telling you there is, hearsay. It has become commonly, and they got it in quotes, accepted. But yet, you come with common law name correction, and that can't be accepted. But the fact that they're admitting that these have become commonly accepted, I mean, we got to get to thinking. They do the same thing with the driver's license. They say first line. That's not defined in the 18 U.S.C. 1028 either, which covers what IDs are, right? The original purpose of this document, government, they call it issued document, was to state that a particular person was authorized to operate a vehicle upon the public roadway. And then it says it was not intended to establish one's identity, but because of the absence of a better document, it's right there in the document. So now, guess what they forgot to put up on the different social media sites, guys? The first paragraph that precedes it. They cut that off and just gave you A, B, and C. But even with A, birth certificate, B, driver's license, and C, the personal ID, even with that, if you would study, you would be able to read right through this crap. But here's why we don't read through it, because we don't study. This is the whole point. So they took off the first part that says, these three documents in the absence of a national identity card are the prime means by which an individual can establish identity. All right? Commonly used, commonly accepted. They're saying we'll commonly accept these since you're not bringing us anything else. That's all it's saying. That's all it's saying. So I just wanted to use that as an example of how we don't read it. If we had time and we don't, we could actually break all of this down. But you can read it yourself and then watch that if someone does put this up and they have A, B, and C, they're trying to trick you and they don't want you to really read that it clearly says in the absence of a national identity card, or they don't want to put that there because maybe you would, like your mind, a light would come on and you would say, oh, so if I have a national identity card, none of this applies. So it's just such a good example of how we don't really I don't want to say don't really comprehend what we read because many of us never even read it. You know what I mean? We didn't study to even see where it is. And another thing, on fraudulent ID cards, if you read 1028, I do want to add this. A fraudulent ID card, all of it, even though it sounds like, oh, you can't make your ID, oh, my God, these are fraudulent or whatever like that, if you really read it, it's basically saying if you were to use any of the marks, watermarks, etc. of another ID, that's fraudulent. The whole thing is based on that. That's really what it's based on. And lastly, I mean, before we open up the lines, we have got to mention this about the brother who wrote me and said that that we were, first of all, that the MDM number was something we're going to use to put in our trust that we don't have.
It's 10 after 12,
okay.
So
all right.
We got like 3 people waiting to say something, and we got maybe 20 minutes.
All right, I just want to make this one point. This is important. About the you know what? We're going to make it another class. However, we will say AA 222-141. We were supposed to mention that tonight, and we didn't. Just say this much, that they're saying that unless because we have AA 222-141 on the card, unless I have permission, I'm putting people into copyright infringement, and because I didn't get permission from the Library of Congress, which is absolutely ludicrous. That means they don't know what AA 222-141 is. And you know what? I'm not even going to get into it, but it's not a copyright infringement. It really means that you have an AA character, of a general and permanent character. It doesn't have a copyright on it. It's not like that at all. But let's move on because we could just do a whole class on that.
All right. So I'm going to take the first of the 3 callers we have here. Caller 228627. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwestern Maxim or Morocco.
My name is Wilton RVBey from territory of Mississippi. Just glad to be a part of your show tonight. I just wanted to mention, I just recently did my proclaim my nationality, and in the process of my proclamation being processed. I applied for a job the other day, and I'm having some problems because I refused to fill out the W-4 form. So they've been giving me a hard time. I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm just, do anyone have any experience with that? Because normally I work for a nuclear power plant, and normally I process in and they badge me right away, but I've been sitting in process and haven't been badged in yet. They're trying to decide what they're going to do with me. So could anyone speak on that, give me some insight?
Do you know what the 74 form is, honey?
He said the W-4.
Oh, I thought he said 74. Oh, he said
No,
W-4. Oh, W-4. Oh boy. Well, first of all, you should fill it out. Not fill it out. Your job has to. They have a contract when they went into business that they would have every employee fill that out. So if they don't have you,
well, actually, no. Their agreement is to offer it.
I know. That's what I'm going to say.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an offer. They have to offer it to you because if they don't, they'll get fined because of their contractual agreement. So, you can just put on it an NA, meaning not apply, and sign it. And guess what? They offered it to you, and that's your answer.
What about for us taking out the taxes?
They're voluntary. You choose not to. Go on the RVBey publications about tax page, and you'll see all the information there regarding. Have you gone on there to look at any of that?
Yeah, I read it. It was telling me that the federal court has made the decision that you're not obligated to fill out the W-4 form. That IRS is not a government institution, so and that IRS is a private industry. So, but they are trying to make me fill out this form. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. What should I?
Just do what I just said. N.A. not N.A. not apply, and sign it, and give it back to them. And you just have to understand. You have to understand that those are voluntary. They're read a little more. I mean, it's a strategy that you're going to have to use to do that. So just look at all the information and get your strategy on that. But you have to know that they're contributions. And do you want to add something to that on how he would handle not paying the taxes? I know that's how he would handle the W-4.
I would suggest that just simply suggest that you study, because you're going to have to be able to defend your position lawfully using the Constitution. And so you're gonna, if you know the Constitution, that's the supreme law of the land, and rebutting whatever they're claiming shouldn't be an issue. But you might need to be prepared. What you're going to have to do is study, because you need to be comfortable in the decisions that you're making, and you're not going to be comfortable if you don't know the law. So you're going to have to study.
My thing right now, I've been studying, but my thing right now that I'm on the road traveling, and I'm at this job site now. So I really kind of need the job now.
Yes.
They threatened to lay me off today. They said they was laying me off today. Then at the end of the shift, they said, well, we're not laying you off. We'll see you tomorrow. But it's
well, let me ask you something.
Like
are they saying that because you just haven't filled out submitted the W-4, right? Then submit it, N/A, and sign it. And if there's a problem, because they just have to, as M.E. said, they have to, it's an offer. You have to see it as an offer.
Okay, when they said he told me they wanted me to file exempt.
Okay, use TNO, tax non-obligatory. And if that's all you have to do in order to get to working tomorrow, unless they're asking you to file some other kind of stuff, like what do they do when you're exempt? Because I know exempt is different from non-obligatory, so I don't know what that means. When they say exempt,
exempt means you're a federal employee and you have been exempted from paying taxes, meaning they gave you permission to not pay taxes, but they can revoke that permission at any time. That's what exempt means.
Which is why you shouldn't use exempt.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Let me ask you something.
That was my understanding.
Did you go on this job because whether you declared your nationality or not, those things are contributions and they are voluntary. But you need to read the thing that's on the site that's supposed to be posted at every job regarding taxes. However, it does fall on exempt. It means they're looking at you to say you're exempt and looking for some certificate of proof that you're exempt coming from somewhere. I guess I need you saying from the federal whatever. So whether you did or you did it, whether you did or you didn't come in as a national in this job, they're still voluntary. But I'll tell you this much.
I didn't come in as a national. I just became a national.
I understand, but what I'm saying, it doesn't matter. They are voluntary contributions anyway. I will say this to you, and I think that's what you would say. If you are not sure about the position that you will stand on, it doesn't have to be a problem. Because I know people who've done it, including myself. So if you're not sure, then you're just not ready to do it yet. You have to weigh this out now. But if you read all of the things and you understand that, you should be able to sign that. All they want is to be able to say, yes, I did make the offer. Even if you say, look, I'll write a letter and say you made the offer. I don't know what this relationship is and how things work, but one of those two ways should get you to, because all they're waiting for is for the W-4. So give it to them, but it doesn't have anything that you're doing. They're saying they want you to do exempt. Now you got to explain why you're not obligated. If you're not prepared to do that, then you can't do that.
Okay, and I was reading on the RVBey that you can sign under threat, duress, and coercion as your.
But ain't nobody threatening you. Ain't nobody threatening you. Your job is not threatening you. They might be coercing you. You don't want to start a conflict between you and your job when really the conflict is between your job and their obligation to the IRS accounting firm that told that when they got their setup and everything, they said make sure when the employees come in you offer them this W-4. They did offer it to you. You can write something and say that. I'll make sure I write that you offered it to me, but I declined. I think that letter is on there too.
So just write NA and sign my name and
yeah, now, but they want you to say exempt. That's what they understand, and then they'll box you into a corner because you said exempt, but you can't show the certificate or the authority that exempts you. You see what I'm saying? That's the difference between non-obligated or what's the other word he can use on it? He'd have to state it. I think you'd have to really know what it is you're doing before you do it and why it's being done, and then whatever they put in front of you, you know how to respond to it based in that vein.
Well, what I've been studying is that correct. What now?
No, what I just said is correct.
That's correct. Look, I don't know what you've been studying, but I've
been studying the RVBey literature.
All right,
everything you need is
RVBey. The literature on RVBey, it gives you enough for you to do additional study and research because your situation is specific to you. So, and in this case, your job. So,
right.
You need to have enough information so that you can make a decision. All right? And right now you don't.
Okay.
So
because it's right there.
So what you can do is when you have to make a decision and you don't have enough information, this is where knowing how to sign contracts or a presumption of a contract comes into play. You have to you have to sign. Well, if you have to sign something so that you can maintain your job, so that you can take care of your family, then you have to reserve your right.
Yeah, because that's what I need now.
And it gives you time to study and do some research, and then at a later date, when you're ready, you can rebut this because you reserved your right to come back and address it at a later date.
Okay. So, and you know what? That's great advice because what you can do, because they're voluntary, and if you read that, it says you can terminate them at any time you wish to. So if you have to do that today or tomorrow because you're not sure which way or whatever, you don't want to cause any harm to your compensation at this time, you can go back and terminate that. But as Anna is saying, just sign. You're saying threat, duress, and coercion. I would use all rights reserved on this one. I wouldn't use threat, duress, and coercion. Would you? Because they're not really threatening him right now. They don't.
No,
they're not. They're not. They're just doing the process they know.
Well, what I had put on there at first, I had put non-obligated.
Okay.
And they didn't want to accept that. They wanted me to. Well, but I didn't sign it. So they waited a day or two, so they came back in. They said,
You need to sign it. You need to sign it. It's your statement that you're making.
Okay.
It's an offer to you, and then you have to respond. And just because they offered it doesn't mean you have to accept it. But they need to know. Anybody could have said, not obligated. Sign it. Not obligated. This is why. I mean, they want to talk about it. They can come to you later or whatever like that. But they just need to have that in, and they need your signature that you said it.
Okay.
But I would do whatever you have to do because you can always terminate it. It's terminable at your will at any time.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Peace and love.
Yeah. Peace and love.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Our next caller is like 23 after, so caller 44337. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Morocco.
Islam, peaceful greetings, family. I am Hassan RVBey at Morocco.
Islam.
Family. Islam. I just wanted to just say briefly, you guys definitely covered everything for the brother that just called. I just wanted to say that's everything pertaining to the situation is highlighted in the Moor Civic Service book, if you were to grab that from RVBey Publications.
Oh, yeah.
It's the only hot pink book, and it speaks on what you was talking about as far as the letter for termination, and Mother Anita, as far as I think page 18, it talks about the importance of all rights reserved in that book as well. If you was to type on YouTube very quickly, it will say Taj Tariq Bey, 7 Hermetic Principles, Part 2 of 2, and in the beginning of that video, Mother Raja, you're going in on that exact situation, word for word. So
I know.
Behoove him to check that video out along with that book. You know what I'm saying?
Could you say that video
really
again? Because maybe he's still listening and he'll get it. Because I didn't name that. Everybody named stuff. But what is it again? The video.
The video, if you type it in YouTube to get it exactly, it'll say Taj Tariq Bey, 7 Hermetic Principles. Okay, and you have to type out the word 7. But part 2 of 2, I think, brother, I think his appellation is Paul Savage Hill. He's speaking on people want to contend with tax or somebody like that, and you was like, well, in my experience, when I don't know if people know, but when you go, however, you're really about to drop the answer if people have the eyes and ears. But I'm going to yield the floor because you guys said there's another caller, but that should be helpful. The MST of A Degrees book, I think, is very helpful, too. And with that, I yield the floor. Excellent broadcast. I love you, mothers. Islam, peace, and love.
All right. Islam. Thank you.
All right. And let's see. Our last caller 972-839. You're live on the air. State your appellation at Morocco.
Islam, family. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Islam.
Islam, this is Brother Abdul Malik Shakur Bey. I'm calling from Northwest Mexico, the Texas Republic Territory. Once again, family, I miss you guys, you queens, Anna Hale, and you two Rosmerau. I hear your son, Miss Ram, on here, Cujo. I know they listening. Peace and love out to them, too. I'm just say speedily, as our lesser prophet stated. The time has come when every nation must worship under its own vine and fig tree, and every tongue must confess its own. Through sin and disobedience, every nation has suffered sin due to the fact that they honor not the creed and the principles of their forefathers. That is why the nationality of the Moors was taken away from them, and the word Negro, black, and color was given to the Asiatics of America, who were of Moorish descent, because they honor not the principles of their mothers and their fathers and strayed after the gods of Europe, of whom they knew nothing of. And the main thing that y'all was talking about, and I'm going to state this also, our nationality is Moorish American. You want to know why we're Moorish American? You have to look at because we are the descendants of Moroccans, and we were born in America. You want to know for what purpose was the Moorish Science Temple was founded? It was founded for the uplifting of the fallen humanity. How did our literary prop begin to uplift the Moorish American? By teaching them to be themselves. We know we go around and we're not really like the young man stated, I can feel the energy in his voice, but we must study before we even take a walk. Baby have to crawl before we learn to stand up and hold his balance and walk. You must know and look up the definition of status. It is the standing, the state, or the condition of being a social position. It is the legal relation of an individual to the rest of the community. Status also relates to the rights, the duties, and the capacities and the incapacities which determines a person to a given class. It is a legal relationship